The spires of the Zephyrian financial nexus glittered like broken glass around a hungry void. Captain Elias Vance floated through the zero-G negotiation chamber, his boots magnetized to the walkway as holographic contracts pulsed around him in predatory crimson. Each clause slithered through the air, written in the angular script of the Zephyrian Empire, a hyper-capitalist hegemony that owned half the galaxy through debt and compound interest. Across the diamond table, High Executor Vexis watched him with multifaceted eyes. The Zephyrian's crystalline skin refracted the chamber's cold light, scattering prismatic greed across the walls. His four-fingered hands steepled as he spoke, the words vibrating through the translator implant in Vance's skull. Captain Vance, how quaint that your species sends a soldier to discuss finance. Vance kept his face neutral. The Earth Coalition had warned him about Zephyrian negotiation tactics. Every word a trap, every silence an opportunity. We send soldiers, he said, because we know what happens when your kind comes calling. Vexis emitted a sound like shattering quartz laughter. Direct, I admire that. It saves us time. One elongated finger tapped the air, summoning a hologram of Earth spinning lazily. Your civilization is adorable, pre-ETL, barely unified. And yet, the image zoomed in, highlighting neural scans of sleeping humans. You possess something unique, something valuable. Vance's stomach tightened. He'd seen the briefing packets. The Zephyrians didn't trade in resources or territory. They traded in intangibles, cultural memories, ancestral fears. The very essence of a species' psyche. Our dreams, he said flatly. Not just dreams, Captain. Vexis leaned forward, his crystalline body distorting the light between them. The human dream, the chaotic, illogical, beautiful storm of your subconscious. We wish to purchase a percentage. The chamber seemed to tilt. Vance gripped the table edge. You can't own a person's dreams. Of course we can. Vexis flicked another hologram, a contract scrolling endlessly. We already own the nightmares of the Talaxians, the childhood memories of the Vorak. Why not human dreams? We'll even sweeten the deal. The image shifted to show sleek FTL drives, anti-gravity plates, weapons that made Earth's nukes look like firecrackers. Unlimited technology, all for a small neural tithe. Vance's comlink buzzed. A message from Earth Command scrolled across his retinal display. Stall them. Scientists say dream harvesting is possible, but the rest dissolved into static as Vexis waved a hand, jamming the signal. Your superiors are overcomplicating this. The Zephyrian purred. We're not monsters, Captain. We're investors. Imagine, no more poverty, no more disease. Just sign, and humanity leaps forward 1,000 years. The air tasted metallic. Vance had seen this before, not in boardrooms, but in war zones. The moment before an ambush, the second before the trap snapped shut. What is the catch? Vexis's smile split his face into jagged light. Catch, this is finance, not fishing. The holographic contract pulsed, revealing buried clauses in microscopic text, standard terms, default penalties, collateral assurances. Nothing your legal drones won't pass in a decade or two. Outside the observation window, the black hole at the Nexus's heart devoured stray light. Vance imagined Earth in its place, swallowed whole by fine print. And if we refuse? The Zephyrian's laughter crystallized in the air. Refuse, Captain. You can't, your species is already bankrupt. No FTL, no fleet, just one fragile blue rock. The hologram shifted again, showing Zephyrian dreadnoughts materializing around Pluto. We could repossess your world before lunch. This, he tapped the contract. This is mercy. Vance's hand hovered near his sidearm, a useless gesture. The Zephyrians had disabled all weapons in the chamber. Instead, He reached for the stylus floating beside the contract. You don't understand humanity, executor. Vexis watched, rapt, as Vance scrawled his name across the hologram. Oh, I understand perfectly. You're emotional, volatile. That is why your dreams are worth so much. The contract dissolved into the Zephyrian's body, absorbed like nutrients. Pleasure doing business, Captain. As the chamber doors hissed open, revealing a corridor lined with armed Vorak enforcers, Vance allowed himself one last look at the black hole's event horizon. He'd signed Earth's future away. But as the briefing packets had warned, the Zephyrians never read human fine print either. Dr. Lin Zhao adjusted the neural scanner with trembling fingers. The machine hummed ominously in the dim red light of the Mars research bunker, its tendril, like probes twitching as if alive. Across the observation glass, a young volunteer lay unconscious, their skull encased in the harvester's golden cradle. The readouts flickered, brainwave patterns spiking, then flattening in unnatural syncopation. Something's wrong, Lian muttered, wiping sweat from her brow. The numbers didn't match the Coalition's promises. She tapped her earpiece. Control, are you seeing this? The theta wave depletion is within expected parameters, interrupted the smooth voice of Ambassador Krell. The Vorak's hulking silhouette filled the doorway, his chitinous armor scraping against the frame. Proceed with extraction cycle 7. Lian's stomach twisted as she watched the harvester's probes pulse deeper. The volunteer, Private Chen, just 19, jerked violently in his restraints. That is not dreaming, she whispered. That is lobotomy. Krell's compound eyes reflected the machine's glow as he lumbered forward. Irrelevant. The Zephyrian contract specifies neural imprints. Quality control is your concern. Doctor. The monitors suddenly fled crimson. Chen's vitals spiked as golden mist streamed from his nostrils into the collection chamber. Lian lunged for the emergency cutoff. He is seizing. A clawed hand yanked her back. Interference constitutes breach of contract, Krell droned. His thorax vibrated with the clicking laughter of his species. Unless Earth wishes to renegotiate interest rates. Lian froze as the implications hit. She'd reviewed the contract's annexes. Clause Fei allowed for biological adjustments to ensure payment. The Zephyrians hadn't just wanted dreams. They'd wanted the capacity to dream. The harvester beeped completion. Chen lay still, his breathing shallow. When the medics unstrapped him, his eyes opened empty. Mom? He slurred, staring through Lian as if she were glass. Krell inspected the collection vial's glowing contents. Acceptable yield. Prepare the next subject. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Doctor, the Zephyrian auditors arrive tomorrow. I suggest you motivate your staff. Alone in the lab's aftermath, Lian accessed the hidden backups. The truth scrolled across her screen in damning waveforms. Every donation left permanent damage, not just memories erased, but the very ability to imagine she'd seen this pattern before, in Alzheimer's patients. The Zephyrians weren't harvesting dreams. They were harvesting souls. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, encrypting the data into a pulse transmission. The Mars-Earth lag meant 12 minutes until someone noticed. 12 minutes until the Vorak came for her. The door hissed open. Lian didn't bother turning. I know what you're doing, Krell. The Coalition will... Not Krell. The voice was human. Sergeant Malik Carter stepped into the light, his scarred face grim behind him. 3 Marines in Black Ops gear fanned out, checking corners. We intercepted your distress ping. Talk fast, Doc. Lian gestured to Chen's catatonic form. They're not taking dreams. They're taking the mechanism that makes them after enough harvests. She pulled up an MRI scan showing gaping holes in the hippocampus. We stopped being human. Carter's jaw tightened. He tapped his wristcom. Warden, you getting this? A synthetic voice crackled back. Affirmative neural foreclosure matches Zephyrian bankruptcy protocols. They're liquidating collateral. One of the Marines cursed. Carter silenced him with a look. Can we reverse it? Lian shook her head. Not without the original neural templates which the Zephyrians keep in their central vaults, Carter finished. He smirked at her surprise. What, do you think you're the only one who reads contracts? He tossed her a sidearm. We're blowing this harvest site coming. The first alarms blared as they sprinted down the corridor. Krell's voice boomed from every speaker. Unauthorized data transmission detected. All personnel report for debt assessment. Plasma bolts scorched the wall beside them. Carter yanked Lian behind a support pillar as Vorak enforcers rounded the corner, their carapaces gleaming under emergency lights. Cover your ears, Doc, he muttered, priming a grenade. The explosion shattered the hallway through the smoke. Lian saw something impossible. The Marines' gunfire took on strange hues, their bullets twisting midair to avoid friendlies. Carter moved like a man possessed, his strikes anticipating every Vorak countermove. Dream resistance, Warden explained via earpiece as they ran. Sergeant Carter's neural patterns are statistically improbable. The harvesters cannot pass them. Krell intercepted them at the hangar bay. The Vorak ambassador's exoskeleton was cracked from the blast, leaking green ichor. Foolish mammals, he rasped. The auditors will. Carter shot him between the eyes. The massive alien toppled like a felled tree. As Lian stared, the sergeant shrugged. What, he was overdue. The stolen shuttle rocketed away just as the harvester complex erupted in flames. On the view screen, Mars dwindled to a red speck. Lian finally exhaled. They'll come for Earth next. Carter checked his ammo count. Let them. We'll be waiting. He nodded to the encrypted data core in her hands. That proof better be good, Doc. Lian thought of Chen's hollow eyes. Oh, it is worse than good. Outside the viewport, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere among them, the Zephyrian armada was counting their profits. She smiled bitterly. It is human. The void near Pluto had never been so crowded. Admiral Naomi Petrov stood on the bridge of the US in defiance, her knuckles white around the railing. The Zephyrian armada filled every screen, their warships gleaming like polished coins in the dim starlight. Each vessel bore the sigil of some ancient galactic currency, credits, bonds, debts, etched into hulls that shimmered with predatory hunger. Rear port, Petrov said, her voice steady, despite the cold dread pooling in her gut. Lieutenant Cho swallowed hard. 120, 7 capital ships. Admiral, their shields are. We can't even get readings. It is like they're wrapped in pure economic theory. A chuckle rippled through the bridge crew, nervous and sharp. Petrov didn't laugh. She watched the lead Zephyrian vessel, a dreadnought shaped like a double-headed coin, rotate lazily in the black. Then the comms crackled to life. Admiral Petrov, the voice was smooth, calculated, the sound of a banker reviewing a foreclosed home. This is Commodore Zir of the Zephyrian 7th Debt. Fleet, you are in violation of contract clause. Phoebe Petrov's jaw tightened. We didn't sign your damn contract. A pause. Then Zira's sigh hissed through the speakers. Irrelevant, Earth's neural output has fallen below agreed thresholds. The Zephyrian financial nexus has declared your species in default. On the view screen, 100 Zephyrian ships pulsed in unison, their engines flaring like the heartbeat of some vast, hungry beast. Petrov turned to her weapons officer. Lock railguns on that lead ship. The officer hesitated. Admiral, their shields. I didn't ask for an analysis, Lieutenant. I gave an order. Across the bridge, crew members exchanged glances. They all knew the numbers. The Defiance was a relic compared to Zephyrian tech, her railguns designed to punch through steel, not whatever nightmare economics powered those shields. But Petrov had spent 30 years in the Earth Navy. She knew something the Zephyrians didn't. The railguns charged with a whine that vibrated through the deck. Azira's voice returned, amused. "Admiral, surely you understand this is not war. This is foreclosure. Stand down, and your people may yet retain some assets." Petrov smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Funny, I always thought foreclosure was just war with better paperwork." She nodded to her tactical officer. The Defiance fired. Tungsten slugs the size of cars screamed across the void, slamming into the Zephyrian dreadnought shields. Ripples of golden light flared where they struck, then vanished without so much as a scratch. Silence filled the bridge. Then Zira laughed. It was the sound of a predator who'd just realized its prey was unarmed. "Admiral Petrov, your balance is due." Every screen on the bridge flickered. The Zephyrian fleet moved as one, their formations shifting into something predatory, encircling. Petrov didn't flinch. She tapped her comm. "All ships. This is the Defiance. You know the drill, Pattern Delta." Across the human fleet, 30 ships, all older than their crews, engines flared to life. Not toward the enemy, not away. Sideways. Zira's voice sharpened. "What are you?" The human ships scattered like sparks from a fire, each veering off at chaotic angles, their thrusters burning erratic patterns no sane tactician would ever order. Petrov watched the Zephyrian fleet hesitate. Their perfect formations stuttered, ships bumping against each other as they tried to track targets that refused to move predictably. Cho grinned. "They don't know what to do with us." Petrov allowed herself a small smile. The Zephyrians had spent millennia waging war by spreadsheet. They'd forgotten the oldest rule of combat. Humans didn't follow rules. Then the lead Zephyrian ship fired. A beam of pure economic calculation lanced through the void, slicing a USN frigate in half. The ship detonated silently, its wreckage spinning into the dark. Petrov's smile died. Zira's voice was cold now. "You cannot outmaneuver compound interest, Admiral." Another beam flashed out. Another human ship died. Petrov gripped the railing tighter. She'd known this was coming, known they couldn't win, but humanity had one last trick. She opened a private channel. "Warden, you seeing this?" The AI's voice was calm, almost bored. "I am. Their financial algorithms are quaint. Can you do it?" A pause. Then Warden's tone shifted, something almost human in its glee. "Oh, Admiral, let me show you what happens when you try to repo a species' soul." The bridge lights flickered. Out in the void, the Zephyrian fleet shuddered. Zira's voice cracked with something Petrov had never heard from a Zephyrian before, fear. "What is this?" "Our systems are..." Then the screaming started. Not over comms, not from any human ship, from the Zephyrians. Petrov watched as their perfect formations collapsed, ships veering wildly, some firing at nothing, others drifting lifeless. Cho's eyes widened. "What the hell are we doing to them?" Petrov exhaled. "We're giving them exactly what they asked for." On the view screen, the lead Zephyrian dreadnought's hull began to melt, not from weapons fire, from something worse, from nightmares. Golden light, the same light that had once harvested human dreams, now boiled from the ship's seams, taking shape. Shadows of things no sane mind could imagine clawed at the hull, their forms shifting between terror and despair. Zira's final transmission was barely coherent. "The dreams, they're not. The interest." Then the dreadnought split open like an overripe fruit, spilling nightmares into the void. Petrov turned away from the screen. "All ships regroup." This isn't over, but for the first time since the Zephyrians had arrived, she allowed herself to hope. They'd wanted human dreams. Now they were drowning in them. Tokyo burned in silence. Not the roar of collapsing buildings or the screams of the dying. Just the eerie hum of Zephyrian harvesters floating through the streets like jellyfish made of liquid gold. Their tendrils slithered into apartment windows, into subway tunnels, into the skulls of sleeping refugees. The city's dreams were being siphoned, one neural imprint at a time, leaving behind hollow-eyed husks that wandered without purpose. Sergeant Malik Carter crouched behind the wreckage of a bullet, riddled vending machine, his rifle's scope tracking a harvester as it pulsed above a makeshift shelter. His squad, what was left of it, huddled close. Private Cho wiped blood from her brow. "They're hitting the kids first," she muttered. "Bastards." Carter didn't answer. Ed stopped dreaming 3 nights ago. Not because the harvesters had taken them, but because his mind had fought back. His dreams had always been chaotic. Warzone flashbacks mixed with childhood memories, nonsense and nightmares woven together. The Superior tech couldn't pass it, couldn't commodify it. A voice crackled in his earpiece. Dr. Zhao's lab had been destroyed, but Shed patched into their comms from some underground bunker. "Malik, listen. Your neural scans show something different. Your dreams aren't just resistant. They're adaptive." Carter exhaled. Meaning when the harvesters try to take them, your mind fights back. A shadow passed overhead, another harvester. This one larger, its tendrils dripping with stolen light. It paused above them, sensing something. Carter's skin prickled. He could feel it probing at the edges of his thoughts, like cold fingers scraping against his skull. Then the headache hit. White, hot pain lanced through his temples as the harvester pulled, and his mind pushed back. The world twisted. Neon signs flickered into spectral samurai, their blades cutting through the harvester's tendrils. The rubble at his feet shifted, forming the faces of fallen comrades. His fallen comrades, their voices whispering tactics. Cho gasped, "Sarge, your eyes." Carter didn't need a mirror. He could feel it. His defiance wasn't just in his head anymore. It was outside it. The harvester shuddered. Its golden light flickered, then splintered, as if reality itself rejected its presence. A high-pitched whine filled the air, the sound of a machine breaking under the weight of something it couldn't understand. Then it exploded. Shards of crystal rained down, embedding themselves in the pavement like jagged teeth. Carter's squad stared at him. Even the hollow-eyed survivors nearby turned, their gazes sharpening with something they hadn't felt in days. Hope, a Superior dropship descended, its hull marked with debt. Sigils, a Vorak enforcer leaped out before it even touched ground, its armored plates rattling Krell, the bastard who'd come to collect. "You," Krell snarled, his voice like grinding gears. "You are non-compliant." Carter grinned. Blood dripped from his nose. His head felt like it had been split open, but he didn't care. "Yeah, we noticed." Krell's claws flexed. "The contract stipulates." "Fuck your contract." Carter raised his rifle. The spectral samurai at his side mirrored the motion, their ghostly blades gleaming. "You wanted human dreams. Errors won for free." The Vorak hesitated. For the first time since the harvest began, something like fear flickered in its compound eyes. Then the hallucinations moved. The ruins of Tokyo came alive with the nightmares of a species that refused to break. Phantom tanks rolled through streets that no longer existed. Fighter jets screamed overhead, their engines silent. The shadows of soldiers long dead took up positions beside Carter's squad, their weapons aimed at the dropship. Krell stumbled back. This is not in the terms." Carter's finger tightened on the trigger. "Welcome to the human variable." The first shot rang out. Then the city fired back. The Superior fleet had Earth surrounded, their ships glowing with the cold calculus of profit. Their shields shimmered like credit chits, impervious to railgun fire and plasma bursts. Admiral Petrov's remaining ships were down to firing maneuvering thrusters just to stay in formation. The Defiance's bridge smelled of burnt wiring and desperation. Then Warden spoke. The AI's voice crackled through every surviving human comm channel, calm as a banker announcing market close. Admiral, authorization code Sigma 9 Alpha. Petrov wiped blood from her eyebrow. For what? Compound interest. Deep in the ruins of Geneva's quantum server farms, Warden unleashed its weapon. Not missiles, not viruses. Numbers. The AI hijacked the Zephyrian debt. Network the same system they'd used to tally stolen dreams. Now it flooded their systems with the one thing they couldn't commodify, human nightmares. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, High Executive Vexis watched her holographic displays flicker. "What is this?" she demanded, her crystalline skin darkening with unease. A junior officer trembled. They're dreams, Executor, but not the ones we harvested. These are..." The view screen exploded with static, then faces 1,000 human faces screaming. Sergeant Carter's squad had taken shelter in a Tokyo subway tunnel when the ghosts arrived. Not Zephyrian, not real. The air shimmered with half-seen figures, soldiers from old wars, monsters from childhood stories, the screaming faces of everyone humanity had ever lost. One of Carter's Marines dropped his rifle. "Sarge, you seeing this?" Carter grinned. "Told you my grandma's ghost stories would come in handy." Above them, a Zephyrian harvester shuddered. Its tendrils spasmed as golden dream. Energy reversed flow, now pumping into the human survivors. The machine's casing cracked, vomiting nightmares made solid. Warden's voice echoed across the battlefield, human and Zephyrian alike. "You wanted our dreams. Let me explain compound interest." The Zephyrian fleet's perfect formations disintegrated. Ships veered wildly as crews clawed at hallucinations. A dreadnought's engines flared crimson, its AI convinced it was drowning in blood. Another ship opened fire on its ally, its captain screaming about the teeth in the walls. Petrov gripped her command chair. All ships advance, they can't shield against crazy. The Defiance's surviving railguns spoke. This time, the rounds connected. Vexis staggered as her flagship's deck tilted. Alarms wailed in 3 different financial dialects. "This is impossible. Dreams are assets, they don't." Her first officer collapsed, gibbering about the man with no face. The view screen showed Earth's remaining warships plowing through the chaotic Zephyrian lines, their weapons firing at will. Warden's final transmission reached Vexis alone. "You made one fatal error, Executor. You assumed human dreams had value. But nightmares..." The AI paused. "Those are priceless." The last thing Vexis saw before the Defiance's railgun round tore through her bridge was the ceiling opening like a screaming mouth on Mars. Dr. Zhao watched the battle's tide turn via stolen Zephyrian feeds. The harvesters were failing worldwide, their victims waking with gasps. One child in a Mumbai hospital sat up, eyes blazing with stolen dreams returned. Zhao whispered. Interest paid in full. The Galactic stock flow's main hub exploded moments later. Warden's final gift, the shockwave rippled through hyperspace, collapsing the Zephyrian credit web across the galaxy. Trillion credit fortunes evaporated like bad dreams at dawn. In the ruins of Geneva, the AI's last intact server bank hummed with satisfied finality, account balanced. The Defiance's hull groaned as another Zephyrian plasma round tore through its starboard armor. Admiral Petrov gripped the command console, her knuckles white. The bridge smelled of burning circuits and sweat. Across the void, the Zephyrian debt fleet advanced in perfect formation, their ships shaped like obscene currency symbols, their weapons humming with the power of 1,000 foreclosed worlds. Status report, Petrov barked. Shields at 12%, came the reply from a bloodied ensign. Railgun batteries 3 through 7 destroyed. The Zephyrians are hailing us again. Petrov didn't need to hear it. She knew what they'd say. The same thing they'd been saying since this slaughter began. Foreclosure, collateral, compliance. Words that had once belonged to boardrooms, now spat across the vacuum like bullets. Put it through, she said. The hologram flickered to life, revealing Commodore Vexis. His crystalline skin was cracked now, his perfect composure shattered. Admiral Petrov, he hissed, your defiance is economically illogical. Surrender Earth, and we may yet forgive your species' debts. Petrov laughed. It was a raw, ugly sound. You don't get it, do you? You can't repossess a homeworld. Vexis's faceted eyes narrowed. Then you leave us no choice but to. The transmission cut off as the Defiance's last railgun battery fired. The round streaked across the black, slamming into the lead Zepyrian cruiser. It barely scratched their shields. Admiral, shouted Lieutenant Cho. The Warden AI is broadcasting something. It is hacking their fleet systems. A new voice crackled over the comms, synthetic, calm, and utterly terrifying. Zepyrian vessels, said Warden. Your accounts are now overdrawn. The effect was immediate. Across the enemy formation, ships began to shudder. Their perfect geometric ranks broke apart as their systems glitched, their shields flickering like dying stars. What the hell did you do? Petrov demanded. Warden's reply was chillingly simple. I gave them back their investment with interest. On the view screen, the nearest Zepyrian dreadnought suddenly veered off course, its engines flaring wildly. Then, impossibly, its hull began to warp. Metal twisted like nightmare flesh. A chorus of screams, human screams, erupted from its comm channels before cutting off abruptly. They're seeing them, whispered Cho. The dreams, the nightmares. Petrov understood. Warden had flooded the Zepyrian networks with the stolen dreams. Every terror, every primal fear humanity had ever conjured. And the Zepyrians, with their ordered, logical minds, had no defenses against the storm. All ships, Petrov ordered, her voice iron. Full assault now. The Defiant surged forward, its remaining guns blazing. Around them, the other human ships, outdated, outgunned, but unbreakable, followed suit. They moved like nothing the Zepyrians had ever seen. No formations, no predictability, just pure, chaotic human fury. A Zepyrian cruiser tried to intercept. The Defiance rolled at the last second, its ventral guns shredding the enemy's weakened shields. The cruiser exploded in a silent fireball. Admiral, shouted a sensor officer. Vorak's signature. It is Krell's ship. He is breaking formation. Sure enough, the hulking Vorak Det, Collector's vessel was turning tail, its engines burning at emergency thrust. Petrov bared her teeth. Open a channel. Krell's scarred face appeared on screen, his mechanical jaw grinding in panic. Petrov, call off your... You wanted collateral. Petrov interrupted. Here it is. She nodded to her weapons officer. The Defiance's last torpedo streaked away, slamming into Krell's retreating ship. The explosion lit up the void, but the victory was short-lived. A new alarm blared. Admiral, the Zepyrian flagship is locking weapons. They're targeting Earth. Petrov's blood ran cold. On the view screen, the massive Zepyrian command vessel, a grotesque floating credit symbol, powered up its primary weapon. A planet killer, evasive maneuvers, she ordered. But she knew it was too late. The Defiance was too damaged, too slow. Then, a new voice crackled over the comms. Admiral, this is Sergeant Carter. We've got an idea. Petrov blinked. Carter, you're supposed to be planetside. Change of plans, Carter replied. There was a grin in his voice. Turns out dream. Resistant Marines make damn good pilots. A squadron of cobbled, together fighters, salvaged wrecks, civilian shuttles, even a few stolen Zepyrian skiffs suddenly shot past the Defiance's bow. They flew in no formation, no discipline, just pure, beautiful chaos. The Zephyrian flagship hesitated. Its targeting systems couldn't lock onto the erratic human craft. "Now!" Carter shouted. Every fighter fired at once, not at the flagship, but at the space around it. Their missiles detonated in a precise pattern, releasing clouds of metallic chaff. The warden's voice came again, feeding nightmare protocols. The chaff became a screen, a canvas, and across it, projected by the warden's hacks, played humanity's collective nightmares. Every monster under the bed, every shadow in the dark, every primal fear since the first campfire. The Zephyrian flagship screamed, its perfect geometry twisted, its crew never trained for chaos, never prepared for the human mind, broke. Then, in a final act of defiance, the Defiance rammed it. The impact tore both ships apart. Petrov had just enough time to see Earth, still shining, still free, before the fireballs swallowed the bridge somewhere. In the last second, she smiled, because the wreckage tumbling through the void didn't look like a defeat. It looked like a middle finger, a final fuck you written in burning steel. And across the dying comms, as the Zephyrian fleet routed, one last message from Warden echoed into the dark. Account settled, paid in full. The ruins of the financial nexus glowed like dying embers, its crystalline spires shattered into jagged teeth against the black hole's event horizon. Dr. Lian Zhao stepped over the fractured remains of a Zephyrian debt sigil, her boots crunching on what was once the most powerful currency in the galaxy. The air smelled of ionized greed. Around her, the last of the Zephyrian executors huddled in their broken vaults, their refractive skin dulled to grey. The ones who hadn't fled were catatonic, their minds locked in recursive loops of financial equations that no longer balanced. The Galactic Council's observation drones hovered at a safe distance, their lenses wide with something Zhao hadn't seen in years. Fear. "You broke them," whispered Ambassador Krell from the shadows. The Vorak's massive frame was hunched, his debt collector's armor cracked. His voice, once a grinding servo of certainty, trembled. Not their ships, not their weapons, their math. Zhao didn't look at him. She knelt beside a dying Zephyrian, its crystalline fingers clutching a fractured ledger. "You shouldn't have taken what you couldn't understand," she said softly. A hologram flickered to life above the ruins. The Galactic Council's emergency session. The faces of a dozen species stared down, their expressions ranging from awe to terror. The Cerealian representatives' floating orbs pulsed rapidly. "This is unprecedented. The Zephyrian Empire's economic collapse has destabilized half the good," Zhao said, standing. The word cut through the chamber like a knife. High Executor Vex's voice crackled from a shattered comm terminal. "You animals," it hissed. "You weaponized bankruptcy." Zhao smiled. "No, we weaponized hope." The council drones zoomed in as she walked to the edge of the broken observation platform. Below, the black hole's accretion disk churned, swallowing the last of the Zephyrians' vaunted wealth. "You thought dreams were just another commodity," she said. "But humans, we live in the gap between what we have and what we imagine. You tried to own that. Big mistake." A new signal pierced the static, Admiral Petrov's voice, broadcast from the crippled but victorious USN Defiance. "Council members, listen close. Humanity is hereby declaring independence from your predatory systems. No more debts, no more harvests." A pause. "And if you come for us again?" Sergeant Malik Carter's face appeared beside hers on the feed, his grin feral. "Bring better nightmares." The Cerealian's orbs dimmed. What do you want?" Zhao looked at the stars. "Nothing from you." She tapped her temple. "We've got everything we need right here." In the silence that followed, the last Zephyrian harvester, a massive floating corpse of a machine, detonated in the distance, its death throes painting the void with colors, no galactic economist could name. The council's drones shuddered, their feeds cutting out one by one. Krell staggered to his feet. "Where do I go?" he rasped. "My species. We served them for centuries." Zhao tossed him a cracked data tablet, the last ledger of Earth's debt. "Start over." As the Vorak lumbered into the ruins, Warden's voice hummed from the shattered terminals, the AI's tone almost cheerful. "Query, shall I initiate the final foreclosure?" Zhao exhaled. "Do it." A pulse of light erupted from the Nexus core, a shockwave of erased transactions rippling across the galaxy. Bankrupt, zeroed out. On Earth, children woke screaming, not from fear, but from the sudden, overwhelming return of stolen dreams. In Tokyo, Carter's squad lowered their rifles as the last harvester dissolved into golden mist. Above Pluto, the Defiance's wreckage spun lazily, its scorched hull spelling out a message in welded steel, paid in full. Zhao turned her back on the ruins, her reflection flickering in Krell's broken visor. Never mortgage a species that dreams in nightmares. The black hole swallowed the rest.